And welcome back to the Boundary Corner podcast, along with my partner, Brian Siegler. I am Curtis Wilson. And this episode of the Boundary Corner podcast is presented by Dr. Lord Jeremy Counts at Main Street Pharmacy. If you love this podcast, the Hokies in the town of Blacksburg, make sure you are supporting Main Street Pharmacy when you make your way to town.
Whether you need prescriptions, a tube of toothpaste, or just want to say hello, let Jeremy and his team take care of you. Money you spend at Main Street Pharmacy goes towards the things you support. So next time you're in Blacksburg, head on down to 301 South Main Street. Buddy, big night, man.
Huge night.
Big night.
Well, let's just say it straight up, man. Last week we made an announcement that the Boundary Corner family was growing. One of our members had been on with us a couple weeks prior, Shelton Moss, our new sports analytics guy. Love Sheldon. He's going to be joining us in just a couple weeks and a lot throughout the year. But, buddy, we're going to go from a 2-man band to a 3-man band tonight. And without further ado, we welcome our new co-host, Jonathan Talley. Talley, how are you tonight, sir?
What's going on, guys? What is going on? Doing wonderful tonight, man.
That's the last time we're going to have to bring you on midstream, man. From here on out, we're going to roll it from the gate.
Curtis and Brian had a baby, and that baby looks like me. This is what you got.
This is what we got. The combination. Listen.
The combination, baby.
The combination of Brian Curtis's Talley. Listen, man, it is so awesome to have you now as part of this. With, you have such a great voice out there amongst Hokie Nation. You got a lot of great ideas, a lot of great thoughts. So for those who have don't know you, let's get a little background, who you are, where you're from, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So I'm nobody calls. I'm seeing my name scroll across the bottom. It says, welcome aboard, Jonathan Talley. Nobody calls me that. So yes, my real name is Jonathan Talley. And everybody either calls me Talley or JT, but I've been in Alabama my whole life, born and raised here. Small town called Columbia in Alabama. Went to a small high school called Shelby County High School. After high school, went to Jacksonville State, played, basketball, baseball, and football. All my, years coming up, and then got pretty serious about football in high school. Ended up having a severe knee injury and figured out I didn't love sports as much as I thought I did, so I didn't progress with football after that injury. MCL, ACL, and PCL, meniscus as well. Tore all that up. So
everything.
If
it's in the knee, you tore it up.
Exploded, and this was 2004. So
yeah,
medicine was a little bit different back
that
then.
That wasn't a 6 to 8 month recovery like
it was a little different back then, but so still went to school, still partied a lot and had some fun, but again, been here my whole life. I got a brother that's a little bit older than me. He's about 12 years older than me. When he graduated high school, he went to the Navy. Like, he graduated one day, went to the Navy the next. So he was stationed up in Norfolk, Virginia, and visiting him and getting stuff from him, getting care packages from him, all consisted of Virginia Tech stuff. So him being 18, me being 6 at the time, I kind of took to the Hokies back then. And
yeah,
of course, who doesn't love Michael Vick and the Vick family once you start watching the Hokies and they're on the field. So I've been following the Hokies ever since, man, and been crying ever since as well, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It is a
lot
rough
of tears over
life.
them years, man. A lot of tears.
Talley, let me ask you real quick, just because you played at a good enough level to get a collegiate scholarship to an FCS school. What positions did you play? Just so when you chime in and say something about it, like, all right, y'all, listen, he ain't just a guy that's talking shit.
Right. Yeah. I do a lot of that, but
well, that's okay too. But you got some stuff to back it up, though.
Yeah, so I played tight end and defensive end, primarily tight end, though. I made my money at tight end, so Was in the trenches, man. And when I'm watching the game and I'm critiquing, that's why I start looking. It's a lot of positions on the field that are glory positions that we all follow. But I know guys like me and Brian, when you've been in those trenches, man, you don't forget them. So I'm looking at that line a lot of times and looking at the tight ends and things like that. So it's been good though, man. We've had some fun times. Like you said, I've knew you guys for 3 to 4 years now, and I'm definitely excited to be here, man. It's sometimes it's surreal. Like I said, even just seeing your name going across the bottom is kind of surreal to be like, okay, I'm a part of a podcast. I had to tell some friends and family I had to go to a birthday party earlier. Hey man, I got to get home. I got to record this podcast.
Record tonight.
So, I love that. Yeah, we love having you on board. I mean, it's been something that we've been, kind of talking about for a while, and we're glad to be able to put it in motion and bring some of this new content out there to the listeners.
To the listeners. Man. All right, so we're gonna go in roll call here because we got to find out yours. Brian, your first game in Layden Stadium was yeared game.
I was in Rutgers. It was 02.
The Kevin Jones insane got trapped in the corner run and cut it back is the game his first game.
Yes, sir.
Mine was 03 UCF. D Hall playing everywhere. Literally that game. Our buddy, God rest his soul, Brian Wilkerson, and a friend of ours, Blair Waller, took me to that game now 20 years ago. So, Tally, you got to tell everybody what was your first game in Lane?
2016.
2016.
Yep, 2016. Miami came to town. I think it was a Thursday night.
It was a Thursday night game.
It
was a Thursday night game.
A great game to go to, man. A great game to go to Thursday night, Lane Stadium. Me and a buddy, we went to college together. He's a Tech fan as well. He's not as active on social media, but we've been up to Blacksburg a couple of times together, and we knew nobody. We just said, we've been Virginia Tech fans all through college, and we make enough money to go to a game. Let's go to a game. So
there we go.
Came up to the Miami game, man, and it was his car. I remember we parked. I can't remember what the store is, but it's a store that's like on the other side of the bookstore, like a gas station. It's not really a gas station, I don't think, but it looks like a gas station. Convenience store. I don't know what it's called though, but it's on the same side of the road as the bookstore, but just maybe a block down the road. And we parked there, and his car got towed.
Welcome to Blacksburg.
That was our first introduction to Blacksburg and the cops there.
So from henceforth, you will let our sponsor at Main Street Pharmacy there know you're in town, so you can just park over there at the pharmacy.
Definitely
call Jeremy up.
He drives an orange Challenger.
Oh so man,
it wasn't hard to spot. It was gone.
All right, so one last piece of the puzzle here. 16 Miami Thursday night game. We smack them down, and you've been a fan for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your favorite Hokie?
My favorite Hokie, it's got to be Mike, man.
All right,
it's got to be Mike Vick, and I know that's cliche, but like it's deeper to me than just football. Watching him, I'm a big Kobe fan as well, and it's not that I want somebody to get in trouble, but to watch somebody go through adversity and bounce back like they've done, Mike and Kobe, it's crazy. And to meet, like I met Mike in a Cracker Barrel here in Huntsville, Alabama. It's like I can't not say Mike.
Yeah,
it's a lot of other people in there that I love.
I think you told that story the first time you came on with us, if I remember.
You did. Like somebody told you Mike Vick was in Cracker Barrel and you got in your car and drove, right?
Like I'm at home sleep, and I've got a buddy who was a head server at Cracker Barrel, and he was calling my phone, and I usually put my phone on vibrate when I sleep. Like I had woke up and went back to sleep, and then I wake up and it's like 30 missed calls. And he's like, dude, do you understand Mike Vick is here? And I'm like, Michael Vick ain't there. And he was like, Mike Vick is here right now. So I just grabbed my Mike Vick jersey and like beelined it to, because it's about 10 minutes away. But the crazy thing was he told Mike I was coming. Like he was like, hey, I got a buddy that is a big Virginia Tech fan and he wants to meet you. And he was like, tell him to take his time. Just we'll hang out till he gets here. So that was pretty cool, man. And he was like so down to earth. Marcus was there as well, but they were just like in there by themselves, just chilling. Cracker Barrel, a whole bunch of old white people. Nobody knew who they was. I come in there, I'm like got my Hokies stuff on. I got my jersey over my shoulder, and like almost starstruck, 6'2", 380-pound man wanting to cry because he's meeting his childhood hero. You know what I mean?
Awesome, dude.
It was crazy, but that was a great time, man. And again, just for me to meet him and him to be as humble as he is, to be everything he's done in his life, it was a pretty good experience.
Yeah, that was cool. Him hanging out until you got there too. Like,
oh yeah,
he was like, yeah, take your time. We'll be here hanging.
Yeah,
we'll just be here hanging at the Cracker Barrel in the middle of Alabama.
Yeah,
just got old white people eating chicken fried steak next to him.
Yeah, yep, exactly. You got Marcus and Mike walking in with Louis bags, and everybody was looking like, "What's going on?" But they didn't. Nobody. Awesome. Now, once I started taking pictures, I think people started like, he's somebody famous. Let's figure out what's going on.
Let's figure out who this guy is. Don't take long after that.
I got my signatures and left.
There you go. Thank you for waiting for me. Thank you.
Yep.
We'll go home because I know you want to probably eat and go back to wherever you're going.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Talley, again, it's awesome that you are now going to be joining us. And you know what? We thought we had this rundown. We got together about 9 o'clock this morning, went through things. Hey, we ready to go. And of course, what happens this afternoon that the breaking news comes out? Andy Bitter first reported it, come from Justin Williams at The Athletic, that quarterback coach Brad Glenn is going to be taking over as the Cincinnati Bearcats offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. In a statement from Brent Pry, he just basically says he wants to congratulate Brad on his new opportunity at Cincinnati as the OC. He realized his long-standing relationship with Scott Satterfield, the coach at Cincy, who was previously at Louisville. Basically, a lot of time with them there. He's thankful for Brad and his support in his career, and they appreciate his family's time and wish him the best. It's really late in the process, but I'm going to blame Brian for this because his Colts decided to go hire the Cincinnati OC just a couple days ago.
It's my fault now?
It's the Colts' fault.
It's the Colts' fault. Okay. I
guess. But let's be real, y'all. It is not the best time. We are about 3 weeks away, right? I'm on a new computer here. 3 weeks away from spring ball getting going. 3
to 4 weeks away, yeah.
Yeah, 3 to 4 weeks away from spring ball. Yeah, from getting going. And now we're at a point where we're going to have to bring in a new quarterback coach or someone, maybe an offensive analyst. And we've got to figure this out. So, Talley, I'll leave with you. When you read this stuff today, what was your first couple thoughts?
I'm a little different, man. I was like, so what? I hate to say it like that, but it was like I didn't really have a feeling toward it because I haven't paid much attention to Brad Glenn. I'm sure he's a great coach, a great guy. For him to get a raise and to go up in job, because I think he's the OC where he's going, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm sure he's got some skill, but I hadn't seen his value at Virginia Tech yet, so it wasn't like it was crazy news to me that he was leaving. Again, not great timing, so that is a little bit alarming. Like, what are we gonna do? In typical Virginia Tech fashion, they're probably gonna hire from within, promote somebody until next year or something. But when you talk about maybe recruiting or even some of the primary pieces that he was coaching, a lot of times they mentioned Bowen more than they mentioned Glenn, or from what I heard. So I wasn't up in arms. You know what I'm saying? Like if somebody would have said Chris Marv is leaving today or Tyler Bowen's leaving today, I'd have been like, oh, there's the season. You know what I mean? It would have hit me a little different.
So
when they said Glenn is leaving, it was just like, okay, we got to replace him. But, for what we are, I think we're okay.
Got it. Brian?
Yeah, I kind of felt separately. I mean, I was looking at it and I was like, all right, well, because I'm kind of indifferent on the value that Brad Glenn was bringing at this point. Because when we looked at it, we saw we looked at it. We've got not the greatest output last year, but you weren't working with a whole lot. But Brad hadn't done a whole lot on the recruiting trail either. A lot of the guys that have been brought in, even quarterbacks, had been Bowen guys. So especially we look at Kyron Drones in particular. That was a guy that Bowen went out there. He got to bolster up the quarterback room. So when we look at it from that perspective, a lot of my opinion on whether this is good or bad for the Hokies is going to depend on who the next guy is. If it's a internal promotion, then it's probably a net negative because we're probably looking at a drop off in terms of overall coaching ability.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we're getting a little bit of that back on some of the recruiting side, that's to be seen. But from that front, that's when it would be a negative. But if we go out and get somebody that has some either G5 or Power 5 experience to come in and take that role, then I think that might potentially be a net positive, especially if that person has had shown some aptitude on the recruiting trail before, and especially if they've been recruiting in this footprint.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with y'all on the way. I mean, I don't like the timing of it, but as far as Brad Glenn goes, this was his first Power 5 job. Brad had been a coach, in the collegiate ranks since 2005. He was at App State forever, Western Carolina, Georgia State. So this was his first step up. And then having the relationship with Scott Satterfield. Okay, there's Robbie. As one of our coaching buddies there, Tally, that you will meet soon, trust me. And I think y'all are going to hit it off great. But it's also a friend. Him and Scott Satterfield coached together for quite a few years up at App State. They had a relationship. And then you're saying for us is like, hey, can you blame him? Hey, come be my OC, double your pay, be in charge of everything. We're going to the Big 12 next year. No. And if for nothing else, and again, it's going to look at as far as Brent Pry goes, it's like, well, wait a second. If you come here, you might have an opportunity to take a step if you have those connections. Right. Because, even though it wasn't the best output, and even though Brad's not the best recruiter, I think Brad's probably a good, solid collegiate football coach.
Right.
But what we're talking about, and it's like where Brian's saying, like, it's neutral right now, depending on who we hire, is he wasn't in on Drones. That was Bowen. He wasn't in on Pop Watson, who's the guy we flipped, the 4-star that was flipped at the end of the cycle last time. So, it's like, it sucks. It's close, but you feel like we can probably put someone there, maybe not as good as a coach, but maybe a better recruiter, which in this day and age, you've got to be able to recruit. And let's talk about replacements. Robbie just threw a name up there that I hadn't even thought about. Brian Crisp's been an offensive analyst here for a couple of years. Does he get his shot?
Possibly.
Yeah. We got somebody on the roster that's done some of that. I mean, Chris has done some of that. We got another guy that's younger that's done some of that. So we got probably a couple guys that could be looking in line for a promotion. And Tally, I'll let you go ahead and go.
Yeah. So my thing is, if you look at the quarterback room and you look at the quarterback position from last year, can it get worse? I mean, I'm not trying to be
statistically wise, no.
Can it get worse?
Statistically wise, no.
What did we have? 9 interceptions, 9 touchdowns from our quarterback. Did anybody else throw a touchdown pass?
Did Brown maybe? No.
No. Can it get worse? And if it does get worse,
we in trouble.
Burn it down. We gotta get a new head coach.
But there's other names.
I think that I ain't gonna say you can just put anybody in there, but if you put somebody internally in there, I don't think that you can get worse than we were.
There you go.
And also just say Drones comes in and he tears it up this year. What do you do? I mean, with the job.
It's true.
If the guy who's coaching them, do you say it's he done it, and then you promote him full time out? It's a lot of ways to go. A lot of ways to go.
And it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next few weeks here about that position. And I don't think we're going to be waiting long. I mean, our plan is probably come on here next week. I got a feeling there's going to be one in place by then. We're going to be talking about it.
Right.
So let's roll on. Last week, and this was after Tally joined, but he was at work one day making the bread because we are 3 full-time. We have our professional careers. We are husbands. We are fathers. So there's going to be times where only one of or two of us. Really? That's why you want Brian Chris, huh? Was he there when you played?
No, he wasn't.
Okay.
What the Ryan Silverfield situation?
Okay, wasn't the Ryan Silverfield. But we have a lot of stuff going on. So last Thursday evening, me and Mr. Siegler here got to sit down with starting offensive lineman Kaden Moore. Got to talk with him. So we're going to play that interview for you guys. We're going to play that interview for y'all now. It was a really good time. Kaden's a great young man, fun to talk to. He might have revealed some information he wasn't supposed to reveal, but hey, breaking news. In just a few minutes, you're going to hear something from Kaden Moore that might shock people because I don't know if it's been on boards or talk behind the scenes. But, Brian, let's roll the Kaden Moore interview. A very special guest here we're going to be speaking with. Kaden Moore out of Freedom High School in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. All-American freshman in 2021. Also a Triumph NIL athlete. And, Brian, what'd you say?
He's number 68 in the programs, number 1 in your heart, though. We got Kaden Moore jumping on with us tonight. Kaden, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
We're doing good, man. Doing real good
tonight, man. Just finished a little dinner here in the RVA. Glad you're able to hop on with us. And try not to keep you too long. It's Thursday night. We know you got a lot to do. So we really appreciate you joining us.
Appreciate you having me here.
Awesome. Well, listen, let's start right here because we see the pictures, we see the videos from the winter workouts. How's the body feeling about a month into the off-season strength and conditioning program?
So far it's been pretty good. On the off season, we went home for the December break. I had a plan to lose a little bit of weight. Start feeling good, be ready to run because I know we come back and it's all running. So
right into it.
Exactly. I feel like I'm at a good weight. I'm at a good strength right now. I'm building. So I feel, it's been good.
It's awesome to hear.
That's also, and I know that Coach Pry kind of preaches that competition in those strength and conditioning drills. How's that going for you so far?
It's been good. I love Coach Pry. I love the competition aspect he brings to everything. Practice, hunger drills, even workouts. At the end of every hunger drill, we do 3 different versions of competition, whether it be tire pull. A team one is the tug of war, and then they have the horse and chariot where they put 500 pounds on a sled. They put it on your back, and you just have to pull it. So there's a lot of. It's definitely fun. It's a good way to end the hunger drill, end it off with a right got a right step. But it's fun. It's definitely good.
Which of those 3 is your favorite?
Well, the chariot one was introduced last week, and I did that. I was the first one to do it, and I don't know. It's weird. It's you're dragging it, but you're on all fours, and you're dragging it, and you have to make sure you're on the ground, and you're pulling it, and the weight's coming up, but you have to it's hard to explain. You have to balance how much rope you pull and how far it goes, because if you pull too hard at once, it's all gonna go forward, and then you're gonna have a lot of rope left. That makes sense.
Yeah. So you get almost pulling it too fast. It's going to kind of dig in, and it's not going to come with you. Got you.
Yeah. So I'd say probably the tire pull because that's one-on-one. You're getting it out the mud against another man. So probably the tire pull.
Are y'all going against defensive players when y'all do that, or is it O-line mano a mano?
Oh, he likes to mix it up. He puts, he does quarterback versus quarterback and quarterback battles, but it's usually for O-line, it's usually versus D-line.
Nice.
Very, very nice.
So since we're doing that, who's your favorite person to go up against in the tire pull?
Well, last year they put me up against my brother. That was probably my favorite person because it's just brother on brother. That's the most pure competition, even from when we were kids. So that was probably my favorite one.
Yeah, it definitely takes you back. Probably it's like, yeah, I've been doing this my whole life. Like, let's
Exactly.
go. All right, so let's pivot it this way. This off season into spring, what's one part of your game that you're trying to focus on?
I don't know if this is part of the game, but I definitely say like my leadership. I want to like become the leader of the O-line, leader of the Hogs. Embody that leadership like mindset. I think last year we had great leaders like Silas, and obviously they are going to the NFL. So I mean, I'm the next up, me and Parker. So I mean, just being a leader, being vocal, being the head of the group is basically what I'm trying to get better at.
Man, we love hearing that because back last month we did an episode called Alpha Dogs, and we talked about the O-line, and we talked about losing John, we talked about losing Silas, and I'm going to be straight up. Brian brought your name up. He said, I think Kaden can take that step, and man, I love hearing that that's what you're striving for, because as fans of this football team, we know how good you played last year, and it's great to see that you're ready to step into that role. And I know the fans out there are going to be glad to hear it as well.
Yeah.
You came to Blacksburg by way of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Who was recruiting you the hardest when you were a prospect? And what were the factors that kind of led you to pick Virginia Tech?
Well, my recruiting was really quiet for the most part. I mean, I only had 2 FBS offers with Bowling Green and Virginia Tech, and then the rest were, I think, they got 5 FCS. I don't remember which ones they were. I think Monmouth, Robert Morris, some other ones, but definitely Bowling Green. They recruited me for like a whole year, like sent me letters, called me every day, saw me in school every day. So yeah, they recruited me hard. But I always wanted to, like when Tech came in to come see me, that was like, I want to go to Tech. Like that was my mindset. So I went to like 3 camps. I still didn't get an offer. I was like, maybe it's just not right. And the Sunday before the last signing day, I got a call from the old O-line coach, Vice. And I mean, they offered me. I went the official and I just committed.
Nice.
Very nice to see.
And let's talk about that a little bit. So you committed, and then you kind of burst onto the scene in 2021 with the big year after being in the 2 deep during the COVID year. You turned that into 13 starts, freshman All-American, second team selection by the Athletic. What do you think played the biggest role in your early success in Blacksburg?
I'd definitely 100% say Brock Hoffman. I mean, from the first moment I stepped foot on that campus, like he took me under his wing, literally taught me almost everything I know up to this time. I mean, he was like the leader for me when I was young. Like even my first year, like it wasn't he's a senior, I'm a freshman, he's not going to talk to me. Like it was he saw like my potential and he was like, he kind of said that like me and him were kind of the same in some aspects of our game, like the aggressiveness, the like driving people and finishing them. So he kind of took me under his wing from an early standpoint and taught me stuff that he wasn't doing with other people. So, I mean, I feel like that was one of the big things for me at a young age, or at a young time from coming in here.
Yeah, that has to make you feel good because Brock, for those couple years he was here, he was the leader of that O-line, and now he's obviously, finding success, staying, with Cleveland for a while and then being on Dallas's roster. I love hearing that, though. And have you kind of taken that role? Have you other than your brother, obviously, have you taken any of the young guys now that, because like you said, you're kind of the older guy in that room now?
Yeah, I'm trying to like learn how to be that leader, learn how to be the guy that like shows the young guys the way to go. But yeah, I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying.
Good.
I'm trying to learn how to do it, I should say.
Love hearing that.
Absolutely. Let's keep talking about the offensive line a little bit here. We know that there were some up and downs last season, but the ship kind of steadied out towards the end of the season. Were there any shifts in philosophy or preparation that kind of allowed the offensive line unit to gel in November?
I'd say Coach Rudolph was the real reason for any gelling. He he puts people together in practice, and he pretty much figures out who's the best on which side. So he thought Jesse was good with Silas, and he thought I was good with Parker. Because me and Parker, we played last year. I think we started six out of the 12 or 13 games. And I feel like we meshed pretty good. So he wanted to keep us together. And Silas already had the left tackle spots. I feel like that was one of the driving forces in the gelling.
Is he looking at any sort of position changes or anything like that across the guys that are returning this year, or kind of cross training folks in different positions?
Yeah, so I've adopted the center role, and me and Braylon have basically been rotating, but I'm trying to pick up and be the center for this year. So I'm trying to. I've never been a center. I've never snapped. So I've been practicing since the end of the season. So
yeah,
I've definitely gotten better, and I know all the techniques and stuff. So basically, just trying to figure out how to get better at that position, because I've been a guard. I was a tackle in high school, if you believe. But yeah, just trying to
kind of slowly moving down the line, right? Kind of moving down the line.
Exactly.
Man, you're gonna have everything on your resume by the time it's maybe even next year at this time going into the draft. I played center, I played guard, I played left, I played right, I played tackle. I can do anything you want. I love hearing that, man. You have had two coaches since being here. Coach Vance Vice, and now 1 year under Coach Rudolph. What's the one thing you learned from each of those gentlemen that has helped you become a better player?
I definitely say in my career, I think it was a blessing that I had Coach Vice in my first 2 years, because he taught me grittiness. He taught me I don't know, his mentality was kill. He taught me how to be a warrior. Young age doesn't matter. You just put your head down and work. It wasn't much technique to it, but you were hitting people every day with your head. So, and then Coach Rudy comes in, and he's all technique. So, I'm learning all the hand placement, feet placement, everything I need to know to build me into a complete lineman, if that makes sense.
I'll say this. So, you talked about being a leader, but you also play alongside your brother there. He got a lot of run last year at left guard. What's it like having your little brother on the team? Just being able to play beside him. I know, is that something that you have kind of been experiencing for a while, and it's just kind of a natural progression, or is it something that takes getting used to?
Well, when he started getting recruited, he started getting some big offers, bigger than mine, obviously. He had Pitt and, West Virginia. So I was I don't know, but I was basically you need to come here. You need to be a part of this, because we're building something. But yeah, it's been awesome. Just like high school, there's a chemistry there. We're basically the same person to me. We have the same characteristics, the same everything, what we laugh at is the same thing. I feel our aggressiveness is the same thing. I don't know. I feel we're just the same person. So it's just easy to be next to him, because I already know what he's gonna do.
Man, I love hearing aggressiveness and nastiness, because I can remember Brian's the tape viewer here. I can't look at football tape. I don't have that skill Brian does. And I can remember him. I remember the first time you looked at Kaden's tape, because that was one of our first episodes, nasty. Trials people, doesn't stop until literally 2 seconds after the whistle. And then when we recruited Braylon, you said it was the same way. So when I hear it's y'all are the same person on the football field, y'all definitely are.
Yeah, play style definitely very similar. So I definitely tell you came from the same spot.
But what's it like? Because there were plays last year y'all were on the field at the same time, and I know y'all have done that your whole life. But when there's a bust a big run and you see it on tape, and I know that's technical, that's work for y'all. But is there a spot where it's oh, look at us, he got the combo, he got upfield, I held the guy, I turned what's that feel knowing that's blood on the other side of the?
It's definitely cool. Sundays is the day that we come in and all watch like the tape together as an offensive line. And it's definitely cool to like see him like progress because he started here as a D lineman in the summer. Yeah. They made him in the spring, and then they made him into an O lineman. Or they brought him to the O line for the spring summer, yeah. And I see how much he's grown up to this point. It's just like that's the best thing for me. Like when he first got to O line, I mean, I didn't know if he was going to be ready to block like Narell Pollard or Rio, but I mean, he was ready. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's the best thing, just seeing his growth and see how mature he's become, and even like being like a little young leader. So I mean, I feel like that's
awesome. That is awesome. I got
because he would have picked that up pretty quick because you talk about there's not a ton of time to kind of get that learning. Like spring is when a lot of that install happens and when a lot of the kind of the building blocks are there. And he was on defensive line that whole time, so it's awesome seeing how quick he was able to pick that up and be a contributor. His first year on offensive line for the Hokies. That's awesome.
Now I have a question for you. Were you and Coach Rudolph here saying, "Listen, you got to get him over here. You got to get him on the line"?
I mean, I've seen some of his film. I mean, he wasn't a bad D lineman. I just felt like we needed him at O line more than we needed him at D line. If that makes sense. And I knew that he could be like a potential starter or even someone we could plug in and play early. So I mean, I feel like that it was just better for him and for the team.
Yep, makes the team better opportunity for him to get on the field quick. So it's always a good thing. Let's ask this. So we talked about the offensive line room a lot already. So who's the funniest person in the offensive line room right now?
Funniest person in the offensive line room. I mean, I'm probably gonna besides Braylon, because that's probably what I'm gonna say.
Okay, yeah. Besides your brother.
Your brother, yeah. And you can vote yourself if you want to.
I'll probably have to say Xavier Chaplin. I mean, it's a different humor because he doesn't talk that much. So I mean, you have to get to know him for him to talk to you. But once he opens up, he's probably the funniest O lineman on our O line.
Is he like dropping the one-liners, like kind of in the background, just like dropping the hilarious one-liners?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This is not on the rundown list, but I have to ask this. I told Brian I was going to ask this earlier today. All the offensive linemen goes to an all-you-can-eat buffet. At the end, who has the plates stacked the highest?
Who eats the most?
Who eats the most on the offensive line?
I'm going to have to go with either Jack Hollifield.
There we go.
He gained so much weight so quick. He had or X because he's massive. So I mean, he has to eat a lot too.
So it's either because how big he is, X, or because Jack went from like a 250 tight end to an offensive lineman.
Jack put on like 45 pounds since he got to Blacksburg, and I think he had put on 10 or 15 between when he committed and when he got on campus. So he's like plus 60 since he signed. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Let's ask this next. So we'll keep it in the lineman room. What's the go-to competitive game in the players' lounge amongst the O-line?
Oh, it has to be Injustice on the PS5.
All right.
So when we do hunger drills, we come in at 6 o'clock is when they start, and they usually end around like 8. And then we have 2 workout groups, one at 8 and then one at 10. So we have that whole entire time until 10 to just do whatever. And we usually just go up to the players' lounge, just play Injustice or like play NBA. So I mean, either Injustice or NBA is definitely the game that we play.
All right, who's the character of choice for you in the Injustice?
I'm gonna have to go with Scarecrow. He got the thing with the chain on it, so he goes far. So I don't really have to go to people.
Documented. Scarecrow is the Injustice character for Kaden Moore.
Yeah,
all right. So it's like this is long-standing tradition for I think just about every offensive lineman or any player we've ever interviewed here. We know that basketball is one of those big kind of off-season, stay in shape, stay competitive together. Who's the best hooper in the offensive line room?
Last year I would have said Silas because he is like athletic. Like I never seen a big man dunk like him. But on the O line, I'd probably say like nobody because I've seen them all play and they're all really bad. So I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen some clips of Xavier dunking pretty good. I don't know if he's got any sort of other game if he's a playmaker or if he can do anything else, but he can definitely throw it down a little bit.
Yeah, he said he could dunk. I mean, I told him to go up and dunk, but I mean, his knee. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that was an excuse or he can't dunk now.
He said, "Not right now, not right now.
Yeah,
I'll show off later."
Exactly.
Awesome. One last thing we ask just about every player coach that ever comes on here with us. What is your go-to food spot in Blacksburg?
Go-to food spot in Blacksburg? Got to be Chipotle. Chipotle probably like 3 or 4 times a week. I have to. I love Chipotle with the vinaigrette sauce.
What's the order?
I do a bowl. You want the whole order or just like what I get?
Just the highlights. Just the highlights.
I get a bowl, steak, and then I get a side tortilla, and I put the half of it in a tortilla, and then I eat that, and then I eat the bowl.
There you go.
So you get things in one, basically.
That's the move right there. That's always the move. Tortilla on the side is always the move. Get the bowl, exactly. Tortilla on the side.
Wait a second. They let you put the tortilla on the side? I didn't know that.
Yeah, order the bowl, get a tortilla. It's like 50 cents or something like that. Put the tortilla on the side.
And you can make your own burrito.
You make your own burrito, and then you eat the bowl after.
Oh, man, exactly. things you find out talking to Tech football players. Okay, man, listen. Best of luck getting through the rest of winter workouts. Best of luck in the spring and the fall if we don't speak to you before then. We really appreciate you joining us here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you guys having me, and I definitely had a great time.
Appreciate you, Kaden. You have a good one.
Appreciate it, man.
You too.
And we're back. Well, that was Kaden Moore. He joined us last Thursday. We got to chop it up with him for a little while there. I hope everyone enjoyed that interview. So we're gonna break things down a little bit here.
A little bit. First of all, Brian, you didn't unmute our mics. I'm over here talking my A off, and you forgot to unmute us when we got back.
I was getting there.
All right, whatever. Yeah, let's chat a few things here because there were some interesting pieces brought up that I didn't know about. But I want to talk about this first, and from both of y'all who have played, high school collegiate ball. And I'll pitch to Brian first because he is the offensive lineman. Tally, I'm not throwing you under the bus, but
I'm good with it.
When he mentioned the difference in the OL coaches, when he talked about Vance Weiss really being a lot of mentality driven versus Rudolph being a technique, are you shocked, Brian, that there were issues at that position last year?
I'm not really shocked. So what it's telling me is that there was a lot of things when Rudolph got in there that he was like, all right, well, we got to kind of hit the reset button, get back to square one a little bit to build out the technique. Because it sounds like from Rudolph's perspective, he's gonna give you the building blocks, and then that's when the mentality comes into play once you got all the building blocks in place. Whereas it sounds like Vice's mentality was go out there and be a dog, and as long as you know the play and you're going full speed, we'll work everything else out in the wash. That's going to get worked out in the film room or whatever. So it sounds like there wasn't a whole lot of, or at least as much, kind of the building block techniques. He talked about hand placement, steps, things like that. And, a lot of that you learn in high school, but there's, when you're translating that into a new system, you definitely need to kind of work on those foundation techniques to really elevate your craft. So I think a lot of that was Joe kind of turning things around and saying, all right, we got to get back to technique. But then some of the issues come in when your brain, you're thinking too much, and you're not just kind of getting where you need to go. And you saw it more with some players than others. I think, we talked about it a lot here, last year, watching game tape and things like that. Looks like people were thinking too much. We talked about how that led to a lot of the offsides. We talked about how that led to some misassignments and things like that. It's like, sometimes when your brain is doing a little too much, your feet don't do what they need to do.
Tell me what you got. I mean, you were mentioning a little earlier today to us about you play tight end on the line, and you hear Brian, Rudolph's techniques versus dog, and you were like, well, when you're on the line, there's a million things going on.
It's a lot going on that line, man. Anybody who's ever been in the trenches and kind of, live that life, you've got a million things you got going on. You got your quarterback calling plays, you got your center calling plays, you got their linebacker moving their line, you got linemen that are telling each other where to twist and where to go. And then you got people that's just being assholes that's talking to you from the other side. So if you haven't been in that world, it's easy to say, well, how do they jump off sides? But you haven't been down in there. You don't catch all of that stuff on TV where you have a million people talking and a million people moving. And like Brian said, sometimes it's just thinking too much because you know what you're supposed to do, or you think you know what you're supposed to do, and something comes in and gets you off of that, or somebody comes in and says something to you that you're just ready to punch, So it's a lot that goes on that line, and I think we've seen it a lot of times where we had, and I don't even want to use the word young players, but we may have had inexperienced players at certain places that caused some of the extra movements and things that we had, especially if you hadn't had a coach to tell you, your first step has to, this hand has to move with your first step. Or when you take this step, you have to punch this way. You just have some coaches just say, hey, just go hit somebody, but at the next level, I can't remember exactly which offensive lineman it was, and I may have dreamed it, but I think somebody did an interview or they talked and they said when they went to the league, they had to learn how to play. They had to learn how to be an offensive lineman. Can't remember who it was, but I need to do some research and figure it out. But not talking bad about Vice. I think he has some good stuff, but I don't think he was a very technical coach, And then listening to Kaden's interview, he pretty much told people just go hit. So
yeah.
And
when you're running a lot more of that zone too, I mean, a lot of that's already taught in high school. So when you're a very zone heavy scheme, a lot of that probably came into play with why it wasn't as technical. He's like, all right, well, these guys are coming in. I recruited them from, zone systems that they played in high school. They more or less know technique wise what they need to do. I need to get them from a mentality standpoint to a level where they can play against Power 5 players. And that was probably how he approached it. And it sounds like Joe Rudolph has a different perspective, especially because we are bringing in more gap schemes and more, complex blocking schemes that we're looking at up front now. You got to have technique if you're going to do that stuff.
Yeah. So just
have technique.
Just hearing y'all talk about it, it kind of makes sense that we did potentially see a regression last year because it's going out there from, hey, just go hit somebody to, hey, listen, you've got to do the right steps. Because if we want to be the most efficient unit, we've got to do the right stuff, like y'all both said, taking the right steps, putting the hand placement right. And when you go from one mentality of wide open and play to another mentality of technical, Robbie put it up there again, technical focus will slow the aggression at times. That's the truth. And that's the truth with just about any line of work that you can put yourself into. And even more so talking about moving bodies and pushing people. Right. All right, let's go here next. I'm going to let you lead this, Tally. We discussed in the interview with him about how he is trying to become a leader in that room. That's a big step. He's a young player, but he's a 3-year starter now.
Right.
Brian was ample numerous times last year. He was probably the most consistent guy. He wasn't the most dominant at times, but
Right.
you didn't see him get killed. If he did, it was just a handful of times during the year. You think he can become that alpha?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it comes down to it's not all about experience, but it is a little about experience. You know, when we go back to talking about just knowing what to do in certain positions, or even he's been there for 3 years. He's been to, a couple of ACC schools a couple of times, and he knows how those environments are. So he's able to pass that along to the other guys on the team. And he's played a couple of different positions. He's practiced and moved and done a couple of different things on the line. So just the fact that he's done that will help him become a leader. And he seems like a smart kid too, like offensive lineman. I mean, I know maybe on the old shows and stuff, when they talk about somebody being a dumb jock and then have a brute that just, I don't know what to do. You don't see very many offensive linemen that are just dumb. Like offensive linemen usually are pretty smart guys. So I think that from talking to him and seeing him play, I think he can take that next step to become that leader. But it all comes down to, you have different leaders, but it all comes down to what you do on that field. That's gonna get you to the leadership role.
Brian?
Yeah, I agree there, and I think the big thing, and Talley pointed to it a little bit, but the big thing is that he is a 3-year starter at this point. So when defense are showing a look, or they're showing a blitz, or they're shifting, there's probably not a whole lot of things that they're doing in a game that he hasn't seen. So he can translate that to other guys that may have less experience. So that's the big thing for me. And also, again, with that experience comes confidence, and with confidence come the ability for others to look to you to gain confidence, right? So if he can step into that role, even if it's just by example, but if he's moving to center, he's going to have some of that vocal leadership as well. So he's going to need to be making the calls. He's going to be making the shifts. So there's going to be a lot of things where he's going to have to be vocal, but there's going to also be areas where he's going to need to lead by example as well.
All right, Brian, I'm going to flip it back to you real quick, because when he dropped that on us, when we were sitting there and he's like, yeah, I've been getting ready to roll over and been practicing center, it's just like, dude, you were an All-American right guard, like freshman All-American right guard, and they want you to go play center. I mean, let me get both y'all's thoughts on that, because it's just like, it makes me feel better, because we're worried about center, like who can play. If he can snap the ball, we know that man can play offensive line. We know that, but that's a big step. But I mean, what do y'all think?
Kind of goes to the same thing as you saying him being a leader. Your center is your leader. Nothing happens until the center snaps the ball.
It's true.
The center is making a lot of calls there in the middle. So, I mean, if he's stepping up to be the alpha dog, to be the leader, I mean, center is a good place to start at it. He's getting everybody in line. He's been there for a while. And like you said, it just comes down to the exchange. If he can snap the ball, we know he can play offensive line. It just comes down to, how those snaps look. Because last year, sometimes Johnny was skipping the rock back there. You know what I mean? So we got to be able to get the ball to the quarterback.
Yeah, got to be able to snap the ball. But as you said, Talley, I mean, by default, and I've said this to Curtis many times, by default, your center is going to have some sort of leadership role on the offensive line. Even if he's not the alpha, he's got to have some sort of leadership, because when he barks, you got to listen. So that's good that he's sliding into that role, because now he can kind of approach it from being the guy and also the guy that you're listening to from a check and call standpoint. I think this is good overall. We had talked about, either him or Jesse Hansen being potentially the guys that might slide into that role, since we didn't see any sort of movement of getting a starting caliber center in the transfer portal, at least in the first wave there. So we kind of figured it was going to be one of those two, just because that gives you at least your opportunity to put your 5 best on the field. But again, if you had to pick one, I think Kaden's probably the better choice, just because he is the guy that I think folks are going to look to from that leadership role to begin with. So it's better to kind of have that as your trigger man there in the middle.
Yeah, and that's so much about the things that we don't see behind the scenes. Who knows? They might have been asking him to try snapping the ball during practice last year, right? Like, hey, go take 10 reps snapping the ball. We don't get to see that. So, and we see the portal. Why aren't we taking a center? Why aren't we taking somebody that can really help this offensive line? When in reality, it might be he's been working on it. And we've got Johnny. We know Johnny can play center. We're going to let Kaden focus on guard, but he's going to work. He's going to work at snapping. He's going to work on some of those techniques that we need to do during our practice sessions. Because we heard, several times Price say, hey, we wouldn't let some of the young guys go out there and fully scrimmage. Who knows? Maybe Kaden Moore during some of those scrimmages, Kaden's going to go be center. He's going to go out there and snap the ball to guys. We don't know that. That's things behind the scenes we can't see.
Right.
But then we see things like this. And, I mean, for us, like, I love he said it to us. He wasn't afraid. And that's another thing I love about Brent Pry. Players aren't afraid to have conversations with other individuals. Go ahead, Talley.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, it happens more than people see. It's not a sexy position. The line, guard, center is not a sexy position. People don't pay attention to it as much as they pay attention to quarterback or wide receiver or running back. But you have a lot of linemen that move around and play different positions. I mean, of course, I'm an Alabama guy, not an Alabama fan, but I'm an Alabama guy. So I watched some Alabama football. Alabama had, I think it was maybe like 2010 or 11. Don't quote me on that. We can do some research and find out for sure. But they had Barrett Jones, I think, was the offensive lineman there. He won 2 different awards to be the best. He was like the best tackle, then the best center. Like the year they won the championship, and whatever year it was, maybe like 2012 or something. And they usually play all those positions. And Barrett Jones, and also he had like a 4.0 while doing all this. Like I said, offensive linemen are very heady. And if they are asking you to play a couple of different positions, I'm sure if we looked up Kaden Moore's grades, he's probably one of the best on the team. He's probably one of the best on the team as far as grades go, because it's not easy to be down on the line and learn all those positions. So,
all right.
Again, I want to jump off of this too, because I just put something on there that Robbie talked about. Having all of his guys practice snapping at some point, so they're potentially in an emergency situation ready to roll. And Talley can speak to this as well, but one of the things that we always did, we were expected to be at the practice field 15 minutes before the start of practice, because offensive linemen were snapping the ball to any and all people that handle the ball from a quarterback perspective. So, you had guys that, you had your 2 or 3 guys that were in the 3 deep snapping to the quarterbacks. Then other guys would take turns in that same rotation and work on snapping for emergency situations, because, there are a lot of times, as much as you don't want to do it, if you have a couple guys go down, you don't necessarily want your 3rd string center out there. You might want to, slide a guard over in there and work another guard into the rotation from that 2 deep. So having guys that can snap, that aren't necessarily got the C next to their name in the program, that's never a bad idea. So this is something that he's probably worked on to some degree, before this discussion happened at the end of the season.
Absolutely. All right. Well, real quick, y'all. Brian, Talley led last time, so you get to lead it this time. Who's your right now, as we sit? Who's your 5 on the line? You don't have to put where they're going to be.
Chaplin, Hansen, Moore, Garrett.
Oh, I know you're going to go Johnny.
Dang, you kicked Parker out?
He kicked Parker out. Parker made him mad last year. What about you, Talley?
I hate to just say the exact same that he said. I would probably put Clemens in there. I've seen him on a couple of lists this year for working out and a couple of things. So because he has some experience, I give him a little bit of edge over Chaplin or Garrett. Not sure which one just yet, but I feel like they're going to have him start in there. How long he's in there, I don't know, but I feel like he's going to be in there somewhere. The Moore brothers definitely going. I think they got some good stuff coming for us this year.
Yeah, I'm with Tally. I think Clements right now over Garrett because of the experience and just because of those last few games. Brian said it on here. Clements hasn't looked as bad as he did earlier in the season. Like something clicked with Joe teaching technique. So I'm with Tally on
That was my marked praise at the end of the
it. Was
year.
he marked it? He said
He's not standing out as looking
bad anymore.
Bad right now. So yeah.
All right, Tally, we're going. So we send this video to Tally because he wasn't able to join us, and almost the first thing out in Tally's text was not about the center or the coaching styles. Go ahead, Tally. He got a rant.
Hey, what is it? Who eats that shit? I don't understand. All right, so where I work is on like a major highway or major road here.
Yeah.
And you can get pretty much anything within 10 minutes. Like, go this way, you get Popeyes. Go that way, you get McDonald's. Go that way, you get Texas Roadhouse. Go that way, you get Longhorns. There's a Chipotle somewhere in there. Nobody ever says, hey, let's go get Chipotle for everybody. You know why? Because it's horrible. It's horrible. I've ate that one time in my life, and it came out of both ends, and I was done. I want to never touch it again. But besides that, it just didn't taste good. Like it, I don't know, man. Maybe I need to give it a try in another state or another place, but here
I was saying when he told me, I was like, were you patient zero for that listeria outbreak?
Man, I think I was. I think I was the first person to get it, and I was done after that.
Man, but if you would have known, Tally,
I see some. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you would have known you got the listeria outbreak, you could have sued Chipotle and been a millionaire right now.
Man, I probably could have been a millionaire right now. We could have changed the name to Tally Hote or something. We would have been all right. We'd have been doing this thing in the same house. We'd have bought a mansion and just lived together.
There we go, baby. All right. So, there's Kaden's interview. Again, we really appreciate him joining us. And don't worry, y'all. We had one today that I think next week y'all going to find even fire than this one. That's a tease. That means y'all got to come back and listen next week. But let's keep it rolling.
Come on back.
Always coming back. All right. We got a few more things. We're going to do this pretty quick. Let's do some hoops real quick. Let's talk about Tech falls to Miami tonight, 76-70. And I'm probably more irritated than anything is because we were sitting here before we got on. What I tell you, you and Robbie going to get along today, y'all meet. So we fall to Miami. We shoot better from the field than them. We shoot better from 3 points than them. They do get us in free throws. But, look, just not just this game. They beat UVA. We beat BC or lose to BC. Beat Notre Dame, struggle with them, bad team. Lose Georgia Tech, which just made Tally infuriated because he watched that game. We beat number one team in the ACC. And we hang with probably the best team in the ACC tonight. Can y'all make any sense of this team?
No.
It is so frustrating. Talking with so many people out there, it's just like Dougie had said it the other week. This is the worst good team I've ever seen.
Yep.
It makes little to no sense.
It's infuriating to watch because, we look at it and we're like, all right, well, if this team could beat BC, which they should, if this team can beat Georgia Tech, which they should, if this team could just win a road game here or there,
Jesus,
that's all you have to do. Like, those are 3 easy hurdles to clear, but we have not been able to clear them. Then meanwhile, we get, you get a win against UVA, you're able to pull a win at Pitt. Like, what's going on? Like,
say it, Tally.
You got so many games in basketball that people don't like. Football, people pay attention to the losses. In basketball, it's like you get a pass because you got 30 fucking games. And if you play 30 different teams, you're going to beat a top 25 team. And I had people arguing with me saying, because I think Mike Young is a great fit for Virginia Tech. But at the same time, it's like, whenever we lose a game we're not supposed to, I'm going to say it's his fault because I'm looking at the team and they're watching rebounds bounce right beside them, or we're throwing the ball to the other team. Like, if the football team loses by 1 point, they're going at the coach every single time. Basketball team loses, and it's like, well, they beat us today. I'm like, no, the effort was different today than it was. When we go against top talent, we bring our top game. When we go against middle of the road teams, we come with middle of the road effort. Miami's a good basketball team. We lost by 6 points?
Yeah.
So not saying that doesn't hurt now in where we are, but if we had won those games of teams we were supposed to beat, and I'm using air quotations because every game's different, but if we'd have won those games against the Georgia Techs and the BCs when one of their best players gets hurt, the Miami losses don't hurt you. Going into tournament play, going into trying to get into the tournament. But it's baseball season now. Y'all might as well quit talking basketball. It's over with.
And I believe the baseball team did win today, which we're going to hit on some in the next upcoming weeks. We're going to have Shelton on talk about that. We're going to be paying attention to it, obviously. A couple other quick things to talk about hoops-wise. The women. Shelton said it on this program a couple weeks ago. This team can be an Elite 18. And I'm going to tell you, I've watched a couple games here and there. They're sometimes tough to find. Winning for the first time at NC State against a ranked NC State team and then beating 3 ranked. They've won 4 straight teams against top 20 ranked teams. This team, legitimately, if this keeps going, there's your best shot to be watching basketball into late March. For the ladies with Kitley and Jordan.
And they went out there and just laid it to FSU and Duke. Like it wasn't even a contest. Duke wasn't a contest at the end of one. They had a lead and it was just they kept padding it. Duke got a few garbage time things in the fourth quarter to make it look a little closer than it was, but that wasn't a game for 3 quarters.
Yeah, Kenny brought in some good. He brought in some good transfers, this past year as well. And some of the young ladies that he brought in were high contributors on the teams that they came from. It was Power 5 experience as well. And basketball is a little bit different. So I don't 100% pay attention to where people come from, to where they're going, because it takes one man to have a good basketball team.
It's true.
Like, you can recruit one player and he can play basketball better than everybody else on the court, and he can beat the other team by himself. I mean, it's a team sport, but if LeBron plays, 18-year-old LeBron goes to the Hokies right now, how many times did that team lose? Not many.
Very few.
Very few.
Not many.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
We probably lose to BC because we can't fucking beat them. But other than that, it takes 1 or 2. In basketball is much different than any other sport because it's so individualized. But back to the women's basketball team, they already had a couple of good players from last year.
Kitley and Jordan.
Kitley is awesome. And then they bring in those transfers just to give that team depth, and they look good, man. It looks like you said, it looks like our best shot to watch some meaningful basketball late into March. So I'll be excited to see. I mean, I'm gonna be cheering like hell that they go deep into the tournament.
Hopefully we don't get a matchup in the first round like we had last year and somebody team shooting 60% from 3.
Yeah. Well, you listen, there is only a handful of teams that can handle that barrage. If team shoots 60% from 3, just about every team in the country is losing. One last piece, not hoops, but wrestling. Since we've last been on here, crushing Duke, trusting UNC, crushing UVA, getting the co-regular season champions, so hanging another banner. The ACC championship is in a couple weeks. And as much as, to me, similar to basketball, the wrestling, it's an ACC championship. This is big. It's but we're really, it's almost like when we're a really good team, okay, we're a really good team. What does this even matter? There's 5 or 6, 7 guys that are going to go to the nationals.
There's a bigger goal in mind for this squad at this
point.
Right.
Because Makai got hurt last year in the ACC tournament, right?
Yeah.
He got hurt. And that screwed his chance to win a national title. So I think it's awesome that the team is that good. And it's one of those interesting sports to watch on TV. And, people saying watching it live, you get that hype when, the match is going on. So I'm going to obviously we'll pay attention to who goes to nationals, talk about that. I may attempt to get my buddy David on here to talk with us 10 minutes. We might have to do a little recording session. He is a CPA. Not the best time of year to ask that man 10 minutes of his time. So
it's tax season.
Yeah. So
hey, the head wrestling coach got paid, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
he got his money. He got his money.
Go find him at PK.
There we
go.
Then
on him.
Yeah. Hey,
Cheetah Wings and Beers on Coach Robbie.
Tony Roby.
Yeah.
Cheetah Wings and Beer on Tony. But hey, listen, you're a top 10 program, guys winning nationals. They want guys to go to the Olympics. You know what? Pay him, because that's becoming a spectator sport. People are paying money to go watch those things. It's probably one of those sports that's close to paying for itself every year, because getting TV revenues from going to national title, plus putting 4,000 or 5,000 people in Castle.
Yeah.
Like, pay him.
They're doing a good job with fundraising too. So
yes, they are.
You combine that. I mean, they're breaking even probably, or pretty darn close to it right now.
And once you have a non-revenue sport breaking even, all the money that usually sits to them stays with the football program.
Mm-hmm.
And that extra, $200,000-$400,000 you can pay analysts. You can bump the coaching salaries up a little bit.
There you go.
All right, so before we're going to get flipping back to football and get into some more topics tonight, but before that, we are going to take a quick pause for a message from our digital partners.
As we take a quick break, we'd like to tell you about getting your free website report from our digital partner, Grassroots Digital Marketing Studio. They'll tell you how your website ranks on Google, on-site SEO, and social media. No commitment to buy anything. You can get your free report by visiting grassrootsdigitalstudio.com/free-website-report. Now back to the episode.
All right, so back to football talk. And we're going to finally put a cap on the 24 class. In a few weeks, we're going to bring Matei from 247 Sports to wrap it up in full and talk about the 24 class. But there was one more guy that committed on signing day, the traditional signing day, and that was James Genetti. 6'5", 225-pound edge, originally from Durham, North Carolina. Actually, I think he played at Northside. I'll have to confirm that. Originally went to William and Mary, then transferred to a JUCO, and now he's with the Hokies. Pretty highly regarded JUCO as well. A top 10 national 4-star, the top edge in JUCO. Y'all decide amongst yourself who's talking first about this young man.
I'll let Brian. You want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll let you go first.
Well, I mean, again, like looking at, I'm not a coach. I'm not a recruiter. I'm a fan. So when I look at stuff, I look at a couple things. And one thing we've lacked for a long time is freaking size. I got so tired of recruiting 5'11" defensive ends. Like, come on, man. Seeing somebody that's 6'5", seeing somebody that's 6'4", 6'6" on the line makes me feel good. I don't know how good he's going to be. Everybody had their opinions about what they thought about it. Oh, he doesn't have a ranking. Oh, he doesn't have this. And then, boom, they say, oh, we think he's a 4-star. Then everybody goes, whoa, well, how did we get him? Probably got to do with his size. He's bigger than everybody's playing. He's probably a little bit faster than them. So maybe he can come over here and turn up. So, again, I like to do comparisons when you're talking players. Not same player, not same body, but kind of the same body of work as came right in my head and then left. What we got him from JUCO, then he just got drafted to the Panthers.
Oh,
Amari Barno.
Barno. Yeah.
I feel like it could be a Barno type move. Get in the weight room, get stronger, step in, learn how to play the position. Sky's the limit.
Yep. I was looking at him. I feel like he's about 15 pounds away from being kind of what you want him to be. I think he's got some good tools, and as you said, he's got the size and the length that you like a defensive end to play with, an edge to play with. Looking at the tape, there are some things that look really good. There's some things that he can work on. I think particularly out the gate, he uses his hands well. I think he still needs to probably work on some extra moves there, something to kind of counter here and there. But when we look at the size, that's impressive. And if, like I said, if he can get another 10 or 15 pounds on him, I think we might be working with something there.
Yeah,
and he's got a few years left as well, because he came in 2020 down at William and Mary. If you remember, FCS canceled their season; they played the spring season, so technically he's probably going to fall into getting 3 more years of eligibility. So if we're not talking about bringing him, day one to play, like y'all said, put the weight on this year, which not Northern Durham, Robbie. He went to Jordan, down in Durham. It's a thing, but it's putting the weight on. It's that, and can he become a Barno? There's a reason. He went to an FCS school, and some people are like, oh, why do we want an FCS player? Well, some of those guys grow. Some of those guys show out. But if he went to an FCS school, and especially a William and Mary, he's probably a smart kid, played football. Somebody probably told him down there, hey, dude, this is FCS, and this school is very slow to get you in your position. You need to go out to a JUCO and play somewhere, because you get your tape with your size, you're going to get a P5 offer. And clearly that happened. So hopefully that can turn into something. Let me get y'all's feelings on this. Reported just a couple weeks ago, Jalen Jones has left the wide receiver room. So now we're at 13 wide receivers, not 14. And he's moved over to safety, and he's already, got one of those Hokie Warrior awards. What y'all think? I mean, obviously this staff ain't afraid to tell somebody, hey, listen, go to that side of the ball, you can play.
Well, I mean, without diverging too much, knowing what we know here, that wide receiver room is competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And you've brought in some guys that are going to play, and you may have some people in there that said, hey, what do I have to do, coach, to get on the field? There are some conversations like that, and that may have been one of those conversations where Jalen Jones may have been saying, hey, I want to get on the field. What do I have to do to get on the field? And they said, well, let's take a look at this. And it looks like he's working hard. It looks like you said he's already got one of those awards. He may be ready to make an impact somewhere else besides the wide receiver room. It may be special teams. It may be him stepping into a role similar to Divine Diablo did. Again, another player comparison. He may have moved to that side of the ball, and he might flourish there. So what I do like about it is that the coaches aren't giving up on kids. Okay, you're not good enough. Just go. Some kids aren't. Some kids aren't a good fit for a school. But this is a Virginia kid that apparently wants to be there. He's made the transition to defense from offense after a couple of years, and he looks like he's working hard to do what he has to do to help the team win. I'm hoping that culture continues throughout all of the rooms, and we see more and more kids continuing to work to get us where we need to be, win some games.
Yes, sir. Brian?
My big thing is that I love this because it's an opportunity for a guy that has obviously put out a lot of effort, that hadn't quite been able to crack into, he was right at the back edge of the 2 deep last year. Obviously with some of the guys that were brought in the offseason from the transfer portal, probably there or lower heading into this year. But he didn't say, all right, well, I'm falling down the depth chart. See you later. I'm going to go do something else. conversations were had with
Right.
coach, and he decided, all right, let's switch sides. Let's see if I can be an asset. And one of the things we had talked about earlier, and I've said it on here before, and I'll say it again, I always liked the way Jalen Jones ran with the football after the catch. He ran angry. He ran like Anquan Bolden did when he had the ball. He ran like somebody that immediately turned into an oversized running back as soon as he got the ball in his hand. And if he can bring that kind of toughness and that kind of mentality on the defensive side, hopefully that's a quick transition for him where, he may be able to be a contributor by the end of this year and may be able to kind of work into the rotation at some point next year. And as you said, Talley, maybe looking to, get on the field like Devon Diablo did by making the switch from wide receiver over to safety. So I'm happy for the man, and I hope he steps up and that safety is a good fit for him.
Yeah, a couple big things about Jalen just to know out there, Hokie Nation. He had not taken a red shirt yet. He had not taken a red shirt. He played in 10 games in 21. He played in 10 games last year. So if we're talking about him transitioning, if he does need that year, you got that red shirt year, right? Hey, learn the position this year. Let's get ready to get you on the field next year. So it's not like we're in a time crunch with him.
Mm-hmm.
If it was one of those things where, like, listen, we've already redshirted him. He's a redshirt junior. He got to play this year. We have that ability to say, well, like I think what you said, Brian, is perfect. See how he, progresses, and maybe at the end of the season, hey, let's get you on the field and get you in-game action for it, which will be great. And just best of luck from him. He is an RVA kid. He played down at TJ under Coach Adams. So, it's good to see they're doing the boys in state like this. So now, last piece, even though we're going to have to keep it up on our rundown, Tally. When we show Tally the rundown, we talk about the transfer portal. We keep the transfer portal highlighted because it's an ever-growing list. This one we had to put on here, even though he's not taking up a scholarship and he's going to be a preferred walk-on offer. And that's Stone Snyder, kid coming out of VMI, multiple-time All-American down at the FCS level. Last year, or his last 2 years, have kind of looked like this stat line-wise. 2021, 120 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 3 fumble recoveries. Last year, 107 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, only a half sack, so not the explosion, but clearly a man who played at that level and excelled is coming here to one of the more solid rooms. Brian, I don't know. I know you were going to try to look at the tape before we jumped on. Did you get a chance to look at the Stone Snyder's tape before we hopped on tonight?
Yeah, so looking at the tape, I'll tell you the thing I like is that this guy is really good at getting off of blocks. He's a block shatter. He's also a guy that is a sure tackler. Probably the biggest thing he needs to work on is he needs to work on his speed. We've heard that from a Mike linebacker at Virginia Tech. So we understand that limitation, especially when it comes to areas of coverage. But in terms of just being kind of a Mike that can go sideline to sideline a little bit, can make plays in space, and can get off of blocks and be able to make tackles that aren't getting somebody dragged 3, 4, 5 yards down the field. It's a guy that can do it. Now, whether he can translate that up to the Power 5 level, that remains to be seen. But just based on his technique and what he can do from an athletic standpoint, I think he's a good player that you could potentially look at as a potential starter in games where you have a run-heavy matchup. I don't think he's a guy that would contribute a lot for any sort of true spread or a heavy passing attack. But if you got a team that's going to ground and pound, he could be an asset.
Pittsburgh.
Yep.
What size is he? What's his size?
6'3", 240 pounds. So he got some beef.
He's 6'3", 240 with a name like Stone. He better be ready to punch. I seen one highlight, and he had a bionic arm or something. I don't know what was going on, but he had a thing on his arm like Batista had. And I was like, he's probably tough. White linebacker, middle with a name Stone. He probably can hit. All I need to see is his nose get bloody one time. Fan favorite. We got Dax back. Let's go.
Dax 2.0.
Dax
Put him in
2.0.
there.
There you go.
Put him in there. Tell him to go hit.
Go hit.
We don't need a cover.
If nothing else, it shores up the depth in that room completely. You got Tisdale, you got Lawson, you got Keller, you got the outside guys who can play. You got a really good 2 deep there. He's an RVA kid. He played down in Monacan, which is, I think Monacan has still got a former Hokie as a head coach down there. So again, it's things like this in the recruiting world, right? Hey, we would have taken Stone here 4 years ago if we had been here. But you go back and it gets those inroads and things like that. So, yeah. I mean, I feel good. You have 100 tackles at any level of football. You obviously kind of know what you're doing, right? Just because. But again, it shores up a room. And now I don't think we're worried about linebackers. We got the depth there. And, somebody's got to go from that room that's younger than they got to go. All right. So, boys, over the last 6 weeks, we have been seeing a lot of social media presence from our coaches out there talking about the winter workouts, putting the tough athletes up, putting the Hokie Warriors up. Y'all, I ain't going to sit here and name them all because if I did, it would take a little while. But y'all seen it. And if you're a Hokie fan and you haven't seen it, go look at all the coaches' page. They're sharing these every week. They're retweeting each other. They're pushing these guys and pumping their guys up. And we looked at it today because I'm a nerd and I make the lists, and I made the big long list. And we sat here this morning, kind of talked about it. And in something, I can't remember if it was Talley or you, Brian, just that's the way my brain works. We talked about Crean rising to the top with this list because just about every player on this list played either a significant role last year on this team or was one of the prize transfer recruits.
Yeah, when we look at it, you got guys like, Gallows on here 3 times, Hokie Warrior. You got, Kelly Lawson. You got Mario Kendricks. You got Mansour Delane. You got Josh Fuga. These are guys that have had a presence for this team last year. Jalen Stroman on here 2 times. So, I mean, these are big-time players that played key roles for us last year. Good to see them competing in the offseason. And, when we look at the cream rising to the top also, let's talk a little bit about the couple guys that transferred in that are on this list. You've got Canteen on here. You've got Drones on here. You got Jalen Lane on here. This is good because it shows you that these guys are coming in and immediately competing and buying into the culture that Coach Pride and the rest of the staff has set for this team.
Definitely. Now, one of the names that I seen that I didn't see earlier actually was McCray. CJ McCray, he's on there, right?
Yeah, McCray was got a Tough Athlete award. Hadn't got the Warrior award, but got the Tough Athlete award.
Right, but McCray during the season, if you watch some of the earlier games, he jumped off of the screen, man. Like, I don't know what happened later in the season. I don't know if he had injuries or what, but watching him early in the season, it was like, I think he was number 56. I was like, we need more of him. Like that looks good. So I'll be interested to see kind of, what he's able to do and all of these guys. Like you said, a lot of the contributors that we expect to be big players for us, we've seen on there. Now, pivoting just a little bit, of course, because I'm a Virginia Tech fan, I always get a little nervous of the people you don't see. What's going on with this guy? Why haven't we seen anything from him? When we talk about Allie Jennings, You talk about Allie Jennings and us knowing he's going to be a leader in that wide receiver room, constantly looking for him, constantly looking for him to win something. You talk about Dorian Strong.
Yeah.
What are we going to see from him this year? We haven't seen them on a lot of different lists like that, but I know it's some injuries and things like that we're waiting to overcome. So that's more of the stuff that I've been kind of paying attention to this offseason. One thing I am glad about is that last season it was so many unknowns. I didn't know. If you go back and look at any of my Twitter page, timeline and stuff, when people talked about what we would do going to the season, I was like, not too excited. It's going to be tough to get to a bowl game. And people were like, you're crazy. Look at this schedule. I'm like, we are the schedule. People's looking at us going, look at who we play. We're going to kill them. So a lot of these players, I know them, We don't have Will Kustafagis playing wide receiver this year. Thank the Lord. Stuff like that.
Yeah. And to your point, Talia, there are some names that have been missing, and we don't know if it's injury or just they're not there. And that does creep to worry in the back of your mind. Because for me, you mentioned Ollie and Dorian. Me not seeing Alan Tisdale worries me because he is the oldest guy in that linebacker room. He's played the most.
Mm-hmm.
He's played the most, bar none. I mean, go back to 2019 when he down at the Miami game when he's puking all over the field, playing his guts out.
Mm-hmm.
And last year came back, looked great, after the suspension. And that worries me. But then I look at this list too. And are y'all worried about not seeing some of the younger guys? Because there's not a lot of them. There's, you talk about the class of 22. It's other than Bryce Duke, I think.
I see two big ones that I like. I see two big ones on there.
I know he's seen some on there. Go ahead, Brian.
Go for it.
I see Johnny Garrett on there, and I see Xavier Chaplin on there. So
offensive lineman looking for offensive lineman. Of course.
Well, who are you worried about not seeing on there then?
And I've sang this guy's praises a lot, but I want to see Daquan Wright on this list by the end of winter workouts. Because I know we got Nick Gallo is a big-time workout warrior, but we're going to need to rely on Daquan Wright to be more than just a joker tight end that we can line up wide. We're going to need him to be able to get in the wing and get in line and do things like that because that's going to open up some things for us that we can do offensively.
Say what you were saying earlier today about Daquan because you made a really point about him.
I mean, Daquan is your next Virginia Tech tight end to go to the league. He needs to be salivating to watch film like Travis Kelce and all of these tight ends now that are in the league that do what he does. If he goes hard, like Brian is saying, in this weight room this offseason, because he's already burst onto the scene, if he goes hard this offseason and takes that next step, and you don't have to take him off the field, he's going to cause some people some problems because you got to be able to block. You got to be able to line up right. You got to be able to be flexed out. You got to be able to know how to pick up blitzes. It's a lot of different things that you have to do at that tight end position. You pretty much are learning two positions. You're learning wide receiver and you're learning offensive lineman. You got to be able to do both of them. So that's a big one that Brian brought up that I don't want to use the word worry. Even us talking about this, I don't want to use the word that it worries us, but it is something that you're like, I'd like to see something different out of that because Wright is going to be a big part of our offense. He's going to be a huge part of our offense. And even watching, I'll just go back to, I think it was the Malachi Thomas as well. I know he's been battling injuries, but I was just about to say to go back and think about the North Carolina State game. That game looked totally different when Thomas got hurt. It took the air out of the whole team when he went down. But the first half, we couldn't do shit. And then we come out that second half and Wright takes over. I think he took 2 passes down the field and may have had about 60 yards receiving in 2 passes or 3 passes. So him being a part of the offense dramatically changes it when he's there and as a threat. So I'm going to be excited to see where we go with him.
He's shown he can get open. He's shown he can make plays after the catch. Had that one big fumble that, you kind of, it is what it is. He works on ball security. He works on blocking. He can, the sky is really the limit for him, man.
Mm-hmm.
He is an athlete with a capital A.
And to both of y'all's points, if you can do everything, if you can go inline, wing, H-back, slot, X, if you don't take him off, if you leave him on the field every single play, you're dictating the terms of that defense. Who you going to put on him? Oh, you going to put the 5'11" little cornerback and he going to come up and try to press him? He going to ragdoll him to the ground and then we're going to get it out. Oh, you're going to take that linebacker who's going to be 2 steps off of him? Go for it. We're going to run a little seam.
Now think about this. Think about how we used Dalton King when we had him.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Yep.
And Dalton King and I love what Dalton King was, but he's not half the athlete of Daquan Wright at all. 100%. So Dalton King went to the league. No matter how much he played, he got drafted and went to the league. He is I think Robbie said it perfect, match-up nightmare. And when he catches the ball, he ain't falling down like Bucky. He's still running.
This is true.
He's running. And I love Bucky. He was a matchup nightmare, but he wasn't getting no yards after the catch. Wright is. So,
yeah.
Man,
Wright's a guy, once he runs, again, we talked about Aquan Bolden when we were talking about Jalen Jones. Wright kind of has the same mentality. When he gets the ball, he's not just going down at first contact.
True freshman.
True freshman trying to get away and get extra yards every time.
True freshman.
Also goes back to the way the coaches are teaching. Hey, you fumbled the ball. It's all right.
We're gonna
it's
get
football.
better.
You're going to get better. It's football. People fumble. And that's one thing. I think I said it. Who was it, Brian, that fumbled and they put him right? Like Keyshawn King last year, even though he's looking to leave us. A couple times, Keyshawn fumbled, and he was out there a couple series later. They didn't bench him because it's football. People are going to fumble. People make plays on the other side of the ball.
Yeah.
So that wraps that up. Keep an eye on that if you're not out there, because it's good to see. I love it. To me, it's just lovely to see they're giving these guys the credit for busting their asses in the winter, and they're getting recognition every week on Fridays. It's that roundup you're expecting it, and I love seeing that because those guys deserve it. All right, we got a few more news and notes before we wrap up tonight. Did y'all know the USFL had their draft today?
I saw some highlights, man. I saw some highlights.
You didn't know before I told you?
No.
Well, man. Well, anyway, congratulations to Silas Danzy, Jalen Holston. We're both drafted by the USFL. Regardless what you say, they got drafted and have a chance and opportunity to play in the next level.
Yep.
So good on them. I'm sure they're hoping it's like 2 months from now somebody calls that name, but they got a lot of stuff to go through before then, and it's really funny. It's like you're secure right now, guys. You got something.
Yeah, they're gonna have an opportunity to keep playing and show what they're worth, and it's definitely a platform that for guys like Silas and Jalen that may not be standout players in terms of getting combine invites and things like that. It gives them a platform to kind of show what they can do outside of their college system in a more pro style system with pro coaches. A lot of the guys in these leagues that are coaching now are, former NFL coaches and things like that. So that, they'll be able to see that the network kind of gets created there. So it's definitely an avenue for them. Hope they make the most of it.
Definitely. Everybody's story different, man. We don't know where somebody's story begins and ends. Somebody, they can get in one of these developmental leagues or XFL or Canadian Football League, and they can make their career there. It's about money as well. So if you can play the game you love and you can make money for your family, have at it. You know,
Yes, sir.
Once a Hokie, always a Hokie. We're gonna root you on.
You
Big time.
dig them right by
But
that.
if you win a championship, we claiming that fucking championship.
Yes, sir.
We ain't got one.
Well, speaking of making money, now this is strictly here in Virginia, Tally. This is not in Alabama, and Alabama is a state that does not do it to our knowledge. The VHSL, the Virginia High School League, is proposing the opportunity for high school athletes to have name, image, and likeness. What's y'all's thoughts?
I made the joke earlier, so I'll lead this just because I know what high school coaches make here. I was making the joke earlier. There's going to be star players on high school teams that this goes through that are making more than the coaches are. Because I mean, coaches' stipends in Virginia are like $4,000 or $5,000. It's for assistant coaches, so it's pretty low ball. And most of them are teachers too. So you add a teacher salary plus that stipend, you know what we're looking at there. So that's going to be kind of wild. I have no problem with it. Y'all know I'm very much a NIL forward person. If people can use their image, name, and likeness to make money, I'm all for it. So let it ride. It'll be interesting to see what type of guardrails they put up in place for it.
Yeah, when you have stuff like that, it's gonna, like you said, it's gonna be guardrails. They're gonna have to do something to make sure that it's in compliance with what they're looking for. But like it's what the thing says, NIL is name, image, likeness. My name is Jonathan Talley. If I want to sign, if somebody wants to pay me to sign an autograph, if I'm a 12th grader, for my name, that's their money. Mm-hmm. I should be able to get paid for it. It's going to have some stuff up that's going to have to, like you said, we're going to have to figure some things out, but I like it. I don't think it's a bad thing. And hell, I'm from Alabama. People been doing that anyway. Like, they've been doing this for years behind closed doors anyway. So we might as well go ahead and say, well, we don't want to get you in trouble. We don't want to stop you from playing the sport that you love because you took some money and bought some Jordans.
There you go. Yeah, it's Robbie talking about his stipend down in Greenville. I mean, I like it. You give the kids the opportunity. Like you said, Tally, it's going on a lot of places anyway. You might as well make it all out in the open, because if at least it's that way, who's what boosters at what high school are stroking the checks, and that can level some stuff out in some ways. But we'll see how it goes, because I'm sure it's got to go through legislation and all that stuff here in the state, right, which it's going to be real interesting to follow over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle. Because obviously Virginia, recruiting is pretty much illegal from a letter of the law standpoint, but it happens all the time. Like,
it ain't.
There's fudging addresses. There's a lot of kids that live in the city that, play in schools in the outlying counties here in Richmond area. There's a lot of kids that are zone places that end up playing for powers in the 757 that we know and love. So, there's a lot of ways around it.
Yes.
But again, that's always been in place. And that obviously if you got NIL in place, that's just going to kind of sweeten that pot a little bit more.
100%. There's always a family member that lives in the district that you want to play, as a guarantee. All right, two more things. Shout out to Treadmill Horse for putting this out there a couple weeks ago. Apparently, we're going to have a better cell service in Lane Stadium this year. Apparently, they put some antennas up. And I'm one when I go to the game, and it'll be 3 years now since I last stepped foot in Lane. I check my phone during the end of the quarters, if I walk to the pisser, or halftime, and the end of the game. I'm not out there playing it. I know people are like, well, film Sandman is so cool. I'm an old school head. I used to sit in West Stands in the student section, and when you sit in that section, it is an experience when you feel your body move. So when I hear the kids out here like this, like, what do you like? Put your freaking phone down and enjoy it.
Curtis, you gotta get into the new century, man.
I'm
You
sorry,
can't-
man.
You gotta listen. I got a 7. What's your kid's age?
10.
Okay, they're still young. I got a 13 and a 17-year-old. It's all about TikTok and Instagram and all of that stuff. So people want to see the real world, the real stuff. Like they want to see the raw and uncut footage of Sandman and people running out and Brian getting drunk and falling over beside him. Like they need that cell service. They need to have it better. They want those live updates during the game. I get you. I understand. We're not caring too much about that. But those kids, when we're trying to pack that stadium, we want them to stay in there.
Yep.
We need them to be able to check TikTok to see what Cardi B doing. Okay.
I hear you. And I'll say this. So, even if you're thinking from an old school perspective, there's times when you can't even send a damn text message.
That was a pain in the ass.
So like if I get separated from the guy I came to the game with, like I can't even send a damn text message. Like, where the hell are you at?
3 hours later, you find somebody down at Tots on the 5th rail.
Yeah.
I gotta carry you home now.
So I mean, I know Tally's gonna collect all of that Sandman footage he can the next time he's in lane.
I'm getting all of it, man.
All of it, baby.
Man, I'll tell you what though. Like I talk a lot of trash about Sandman, but even being like when you're there, it's just a surreal feeling. You know what I'm saying? To go through it. And even like I've been there when we played Clemson, whatever year when
17.
When
That
we
place
had,
was
game
nuts
day.
that day. Yeah, that was
that-
nuts.
that
Did you
was
go to
nuts,
get?
man. Like, so what?
Did you go to the game day set that day?
Kinda. I was there a little late, but I did get there. I wasn't there right when it started, but I got there, and it was nuts, man. It
is.
And I was kind of finding my way and feeling my way around town. That was my wife's first game, actually.
I love that, man.
My first game was 16, and she went with me in 17. Yeah.
I say this. I got to go 05 Georgia Tech game day with my fraternity brother David and my fraternity brother Brian. And I will tell anyone if you are a Tech fan and game day comes this year and you can go. It is a great experience. It is even if you can't get tickets,
college football.
It is something different. And I mean, we got there about you because that's when it was like a 2-hour show. We got there the last 40 minutes, and I mean, it was like this.
Yeah,
and
that's how it was with me. I got there about the last 30 or 40 minutes. Yep.
And it just you feel it.
Yeah.
Brian, did you ever make a game day yet?
I haven't made a game day.
All right,
yet,
there we go. That's
it's on the list,
Jeez,
man.
Lord. Come on.
Next time
man.
we're there, I'm buying a ticket.
there we go.
Well, so the thing is, man, like me being here, I've been to a couple of games and different sets of tailgates and things like that. When we came up in 16, we didn't know anybody. Me and my buddy, like personally, like I know you guys now. We knew a couple of people off of Facebook, like names. Okay, he looks like this, and man, we got a warm welcome. Like just walking by tailgates and having conversations with people. Hey, you talk different. Where are you from? I'm from Alabama. What are you doing here? You know what I'm saying? And then just it trickled into you got a tailgate place here. You got a place to like. I met some people that's longtime friends. Like my friend Mike is like my brother now. We talk on the phone probably once a day. And that's who I've been to most of my games with now. It's just a different feeling when you get to Blacksburg, man, than a lot of different places I've been. Even when you talk about Alabama, going to Tuscaloosa, going to Auburn. Of course, I went to Jacksonville State, played, seen some games there. And just Alabama A&M. I live here in Huntsville. They're here. So I've been to a couple of different games, but tailgate wise and just the community is just a different feeling. And I know that sounds cliche to people who are not, haven't been there and haven't experienced it, but it is something different. I'm looking forward to the day when those games are as meaningful as 16. When I went in 16, And we played Miami on that Thursday night. It was electric, man. You know what I'm saying? And it was even before we stepped on the field, it was just excitement. Like Virginia Tech football was back. So I look forward to getting back to those games and getting back to those days. And damn it, this is the year. Let's do it.
All
Well,
right.
you already coupled the best environment with actually playing for something that matters, right? Playing those meaningful games. And I think that's what's been missing. I think, even when we were looking at kind of the upcoming schedule, we were looking at it last year, looking at this year. I mean, there's not a lot of what I'd call meaningful home games this year in terms of games that are probably big, that are going to potentially matter, whether it's in the ACC race or something like that.
Yeah. But the thing is, if you sit here and we're shooting the breeze now, we got one more thing to talk about. We're gonna wrap it up because we almost been going 2 hours. Welcome maybe to the new normal. But if you tell me it's late October, like the Syracuse game, and Tech 6-1, 7-0, it's a big game. It don't matter. Like we're good. This game matters to us about where we're trying to go.
Yeah. Winning games the whole thing. Yeah.
Winning games changes everything. You start winning games regardless what the team is, the atmosphere changes. And at Tech, it goes from it's always an unbelievable atmosphere to, you think about 16 when you were there, and then 17 at Clemson when we were unbeaten playing them. It's through the roof. Yeah. And when we were going in the early 2000s, and KJ was there, and Brian Randall and Hall, it was unreal. And we're sitting here, and we all are in our later 30s, and we're trying to tell this generation, it's like, don't leave at halftime, stay. Like, watch the game, be there, because when this place gets loud and nasty, teams don't like playing here. They don't like driving up 81 from Roanoke, and the smoke comes rolling off the mountains. And you see that big brick wall as you get on 460, and oh man, it's about to get loud and nasty for a few hours on that field. And that's what we've seen. That's what we want again.
Speaking of that, since we're talking about it, and like you said, I know we gotta wrap this up. What games are you guys looking at this year that you're trying to make? You haven't even thought about it yet?
I ain't even thought about it.
Well, I'm definitely going to Louisville. I'm wrapping that up.
You're going to that's a road game.
Yeah, I'm going to Louisville. I'm going to Louisville this year. I got a couple of friends that's already got their rooms, and I'm probably going to get mine Friday. But I don't know which home game I'm coming to or how many home games I'm coming to. Right now, it looks like Purdue is probably the home game that I'm coming to.
All right.
Just because I refuse to come and watch us play ODU. I can't handle it. Either way, win or loss, I don't want to see it. But Purdue is a team that, we ain't played. Maybe a little different. I seen us play Notre Dame. I seen us play Clemson home. I seen us play Miami. So I'm just looking for a good game. And that's an early game. We go into that game. Not if. We're going to beat ODU this year. We're going to go beat them this year, and then we're going to be 1-0, and then we're going to go in and we're going to play Purdue, and I'm looking for us to smack them, and I want to be there. So
all right.
That's the two that I'm saying I'm going to, and I'm going to the spring game. Are y'all going to the spring game?
I'll be there.
He's going to be there. I can't confirm or deny yet. I got kids doing a lot of stuff. I ain't going to guarantee it. I mean, you've been there, and
me and Tally gonna link up regardless.
Y'all link up.
We're gonna do some live.
We might come get you, Curtis. You grab them baby boys and throw them in the back.
Throw them in the back of the get the van.
Baseball's over. Get in the van, man. Get in the van.
All right. One last piece before we wrap up. Y'all, D Hall has got away from the media in that cushy job, and that man is going to be an assistant defensive back coach for the Panthers. He got the itch, right?
Yep.
He got that itch.
Got the itch.
Hey, man, he's been doing various types of media for a while, so I mean, it's interesting that he's jumping in the fray. But I'm happy for him. That's something that I think he's always kind of looked at, but just kind of hadn't figured out. All right, when do I make the jump? What's the right move? When's the right time? And he finally took that step. So
Getting
for
his
him.
coaching chops wet so he can come back to Tech and help us out. That's what he's doing. He talked to me and told me that.
All right, there we
I'm
go.
lying.
There we go. Tally's got some sources here. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to come back.
Tally's a real insider. Y'all didn't know that.
Yeah,
Come
he
on
is
now.
the true
Let's go.
insider. He is the true insider. Why y'all think we brought him on?
There
He
it
know
is.
everybody. All right,
There it is.
gentlemen, have anything broken in the last hour and 56 minutes?
Just the clock counting down this episode, hitting 2
Yeah.
hours.
All righty. Well, listen, y'all, that is going to wrap up this episode of the Boundary Corner podcast brought to you by Main Street Pharmacy in Blacksburg. I am Curtis Wilson.
I'm Brian Siegler.
I'm Tally.
Visit our website, boundarycornervt.com, to listen to all of our episodes. While you are there, do not forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube account, still rolling. I saw a lot of y'all out there tonight watching that. Also, your favorite podcast source. We're on them all, Spotify, Amazon, and Apple Podcasts. As always, our buddy down in Roanoke, Jason Long, he plays us in. He plays us out every week. Check him out on his website, jasonlong.com. It links you to all of his pages, including his Apple and Spotify pages, as well as his YouTube account and Facebook pages. Jason's working on something for us that if we can get a certain person on this podcast, we will play. And I don't think Jason's got anything on his calendar. Let's see.
It's still cold.
Still cold. Well, I don't know. It was 65 degrees out here today. I went out and played putt-putt driving range with the kids.
Right.
Yeah, and it's going to be 40 on Saturday. So.
I know it's going to be colder than Virginia weather this time of year.
Alabama weather, same way.
Crazy. All right.
Yep.
We thank you guys for listening. We thank you guys being here with us tonight. And as always, let's go.
Hokies.